Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praise honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and to the apostles of Millstone, and enough respect to the brothers that they're pushing and spreading the gospel of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai to the four corners of the world. Now, through the spirit of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, I wanted to do a quick lesson on this piece of document that's titled The Annual Threat Assessment of the United States Intelligence Community. And Lord willing, this be edifying. Now, this document here, as you can see, is self-explanatory. Every year, the United States Intelligence, they give its citizens a rundown of all the things that happen in that year, and the things that they anticipate could be problems in the following year. So there's a lot. I don't know how many pages there are. If this is the pages, then I guess it would be 32 pages long. But as you know, we go through it, you're gonna find out that it's prophecy, right? At the end of the day, everything that's happening is happening because of prophecy. And so I'm just going to go into Homeland Defense, right? We already know that border security, it was one of the things, the excuse that they used to come up against the Northern Kingdom. They, allowed them in, right? And then they turned around and they rounded them up. And so they rounded them up and started putting them in concentration camps. And so what ended up happening with that whole event, and it's still going on now with ICE, is that it gives, our people, or at least not our people, but those that are in the Yahweh Shai, an example and a faith booster that if Esau can actually roll in and start throwing Jacob in concentration camps, then the Jacob's trouble that's read about in the book of Jeremiah, the 30th chapter, and even the book of 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, you know that it's going to come to pass, right? If you're able to see American, troops and military, roaming up and down your street and throwing people in concentration camps and finding them and hunting them, then you know that when the scriptures talks about, being idle, being forced to be idle and being fed, and, and Jacob's trouble and anarchy and your neighbors breaking in your crib and destroying you, right, killing you and your whole family, you know that it's not too far-fetched, right? So this is one of the things in which prophecy was made manifest in America. Another thing too is what this word right here, the terrorism, and this goes hand in hand with the book of 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapters also, where it talks about the dragons of Arabia, remembering them, and the Carmenians remembering their nature. In fact, if you jump all the way down, it tells you of all these groups out there who are Ishmaelites and who are Persians. Okay, so the U.S. military operations in collaboration with there's a part here that I saw. Right. So it says Iran and Iranian alleged T actors, including Hamas and Lebanese Hezbollah, have been severely degraded by the Israeli-led operations, U.S. intelligence and weapons support to Israel. And so it says that Iran has proven capable of developing lethal operations against Americans at home and abroad, and probably will attempt to pursue such efforts again if the current government remain in power and is able to rebuild. So there it is, right? You have the coalition between the Carmanians and the Ishmaelites, and here is what's being described as what's going on in this world right now. And yet you still have people in there that are in denial. Another piece of prophecy in a subtitle called Homeland Defense, it says the United States secure nuclear deterrent capability continues to ensure our safety here at home. However, China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, Pakistan have been researching and developing an array of novel, advanced, and traditional missile delivery systems with nuclear and conventional payloads that can strike the homeland. The IC project threats to the homeland will expand to more than 16,000 miles by 2035 from the current figure of more than 3,000 miles. And so this is it, right? You read about the scriptures, it talks about Babylon being destroyed in a fiery destruction. The scripture talks about the Medes, which shall not regard gold nor silver, which is another way of saying Gog and Magog, because the scripture talks about a great army coming from the north. And we know Russia is the only superpower that resides in the north, right? In fact, if you keep going in, it tells you that Russia has the largest Arctic coastline and views itself as part of the neighborhood. So, it straight up tells you. And, when I'm reading this, I'm like, this is like, it's like reading the scriptures, So, for, for giving us this joy. Again, this is kind of like an informal, but it's going to be informative, right? Nevertheless, adversaries will seek to understand U.S. plans for advanced missile defense for the homeland, almost certainly for the purpose of shaping their own missile development programs and assessing U.S. intentions regarding deterrence. China, Russia, and North Korea almost certainly will continue enhancing their own missile and counter-space capabilities during the next 5 years. Chinese officials probably fear the Golden Dome of America will reduce Washington's threshold for initiating military actions against Beijing in a crisis, which is likely driving China to focus on using international arms control discussions, particularly on its space-based elements. So this is the pride of Babylon, right? They think their missile defense system is what's keeping them safe, and that the nations are afraid so much that it's the reason that they are talking peace. But the scripture says that a time will come where even the missiles, Joel, the 2nd chapter, it says that these missiles, right? Neither shall one thrust another, they shall walk everyone in his path, and when they fall upon a sword, they shall not be wounded. The sword that is used against it will be the missile defense systems, but it says that none of that is going to matter. So America's defense system that they keep boasting about, it works now, right? It's amazing, it's intimidating, but when the Lord decides for this place to go down, it will go down. Right? All the boasting about its technology and its defense systems, but what they don't understand is that the scripture talks about the downfall of America at its highest. So, when they keep talking about how America is great and so on and so forth, that's the reason it's going to fall, right? If it wasn't great and if it was a low stature and if it was a third world country, but then it wouldn't really be a fall. It would just be, another day in the misery of a low country, right? But that's not the case. Another thing too is you got the whole thing with AI. America wants to maintain a global leadership role in AI, right? So it says maintaining a global leadership role in AI provides the United States with first mover advantage. Other global powers' robust progress in AI is challenging U.S.'s economic competitiveness and national security advantages. Let's get this straight. The AI race that's going on directly challenges the United States economic competitiveness. What does that draw your mind to? The chip. Everything is connected. Like that's what I'm saying. Like when you're reading it, and you've done your due diligence in the scriptures, everything, just every word, every sentence draws your mind to a precept. Right. Quantum computing. Early developments in quantum computers will give their countries an extraordinary technological advantage over others in terms of the ability to both quickly process national security information and break current encryption methodology. So yeah, they're setting up this technocracy. Was that the word? Um, right, technocracy or something like that. And they're trying to have everything in place, and they want to solidify it. They want to make it the best in the world, the leading nation, and eventually, and they keep throwing the word national security in it. That's why the scripture says that he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor. Okay? And so, yeah. They're not going to invest billions of dollars into this thing and not, have it be a social revolution. Okay? And then, coerce people into being part of that system. There will be no need to spend all these billions of dollars on it if they didn't have ambitions. Let's see. All right, here's something that's interesting. Armed conflict across the globe may pose a threat to the United States' interest and forces through the end of the decade. The trend is likely to vary significantly in scope and severity, ranging from full-scale conventional wars to low-intensity irregular conflicts, including violence and coercion below the threshold of war. So there's a lot of armed conflicts around the world. And here it says, in 2024, there were 61 active state-based conflicts across the world, the highest number since the end of World War II. According to the Peace Research Institute of Oslo, these conflicts resulted in about 129,000 battle-related deaths, the fourth highest of any year since the end of the Cold War, and were superseded only by 2021, 2022, and 2023. The risk of conflict is heightened by major power competition. Beijing and Moscow view Washington and its allies and partners as aggressors and hostile towards their interests in Europe and Asia Pacific region. They could respond with force should they determine they are critical threats to their core interest. Even if great powers refrain from conflict, many regional and smaller powers are growing much more willing to use force to pursue interest. Countries such as Egypt, Israel, Pakistan, Turkey, and the UAE are using a mix of lethal aid, proxy forces, or their own military assets to provoke or undermine their rivals or to tilt nearby conflict in favor. And you got to remember too that Israel and Pakistan, they are nuclear capable countries. They have a nuclear missile, right? So many countries are now more willing to use deniable, coercive, or violent approaches below the threshold of war. And that's why this is why the book of Psalms, the second chapter, comes into mind. You see here it says that they're using approaches below the threshold of war. So you have the proxy forces, they aid warfare, and they try to cut corners and without having to go out on a full-out war. But the scripture says that the determination of the Lord is to gather the heathens. They will go to war, and all this little half-stepping that they're doing, eventually the Lord will lead them on a path of destruction that they can't bounce back from, or no amount of treaty. They ain't even gonna be anybody around to try to draft a treaty. Things will get so bad that they're just gonna say F it, and then they're gonna shoot missiles, and then the chariots also gonna shoot down their lasers, and then it'll be the end of the age of what? Man and wickedness and iniquity, and the beginning of the kingdom of heaven that shall be established on earth. So yeah, this is it on that. Again, you could just type in annual threat assessment of the United States, and it'll take you here, and you can read it for yourself. But for now, I'm going to end it by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachakodash, Shalom Yahweh, Bahashem Yahshai, Brakatham Toya, Kim Senakos, that are listening in truth and sincerity. May the blessing of blessing be upon the house. And until next time, Shalom.